So for all of your assessments in this course, you'll be able to use a calculator, a UNSW approved calculator. But the thing is that when you have RStudio in front of you, actually you have a very big, powerful calculator, which is your computer, and RStudio, which can do so much more than your little handheld calculator. So this is not the way we normally use RStudio, but it would be good for us to start by looking at how we might perform basic arithmetic on RStudio. So in the example, there's that big expression there that we want to compute the value of, right? So the 15.99 times square root of 2 and so on. Okay? So how would we enter that into RStudio? So I'm going to write a line of code here, right, which essentially converts the expression into some code. So let's start with 15.99. Okay, and I want to multiply it by something, right? So what I'm going to do is, when I multiply two things together, I need to remember to write an asterisk. Okay, so this is the symbol that is above the number 8 on your standard keyboard. So you need to go Shift 8, right? And then you can write the square root of 2. So how do you write that? So there's a function for square root, which is sqrt, and then in the brackets you write 2. Okay. So again, unlike in the written equation, when you multiply two things together, you have to remember to have this asterisk here. Okay. You might notice I put some spaces in between them. That's not necessary. I'm just doing that so that it's a bit more readable for this video. Okay, so we've done the first one. Now let's keep going. So what's next? Next is this expression in the brackets, right? So we add 33 plus 0.67. Okay, and I have to put brackets around this, just like in the equation or the expression that's given there, because like you learn in high school or in life in general, RStudio respects the order of operations. Okay, so you've got to make sure you have those brackets, and then what happens? We want to multiply this entire bit by 1.3. So don't forget, asterisk 1.3. Okay. And now there's a fraction that we subtract at the end, right? So 9 plus 2 to the power of 3. How do we do power? So we use the what some people like to call the caret symbol. So that's just Shift 6 on the keyboard there, right? 2 to the power of 3. And I have to put brackets around the whole numerator of that fraction, because again, it will respect the order of operations, right? And if I just put divide 37 at the end like that without the brackets, so if there were no brackets, then only the 2 to the power of 3 would get divided by 37. So that's the expression there written out in RStudio code. So I'm going to run this line now and see what happens. Okay, so it gives me a numerical value in the console, which is good. Okay. So you can go and convert that to say 2 decimal places, 3 decimal places. It should be fine. But what if you wanted more decimal places than the default output given to you? So to do that, it would be easier if I turned this big long expression into a variable. So if I saved it into a variable. So let's just call this variable A, right? And the way that you assign an expression or something else to a variable is next to the name of the variable that you've given, you do an arrow pointing to the left. So you use this angle bracket, the left angle bracket, and minus sign. So the left angle bracket is the key immediately to the right of the letter M on your standard QWERTY keyboard, and then the minus symbol, which is the one next to the 0, on the right of the 0. Okay. Now, if you use the equal sign, it also works, but this is a much better practice because it makes it very clear what is being assigned to what. Okay, so I'm going to copy and paste this big expression here, And now it's with the arrow, it's very clear that we are now assigning whatever this value happens to be to the variable a. Okay? Except just writing it in the console, just writing it in the R script doesn't actually do anything. You've got to run it. So remember that you have to run this particular line here. Okay? And so now it knows RStudio has saved your big expression as the variable a. And in fact, you can verify that. You can see it in this panel here on the top right. Okay. So were we doing this? We were doing this because we wanted more decimal places, right? So the command for that is format, and then you want the format a, right? So that's the first thing you put in a comma, and then the argument you want to put in is called n small equals to the number of decimal places that you want. So let's say I want 10 decimal places. Okay, and then I'm going to go and run that line. And so now we get the value of a up to 10 decimal places. Okay. So now you can see why we save the big expression as a variable, because otherwise we would have to copy this big thing into the position where a is on this line of code, on line 16. Okay, and that doesn't look very nice. Another thing that's useful is if I want a certain number of digits, right? So instead of how many decimal places, I want to have some number of digits. So let's say I want 12 digits. Well, then the argument is the same format, but the argument is digits equals to, let's say, 12, right? And if I run that line, it gives me, well, 12 digits is the same as 10 decimal places in this instance, but it gives me the same value. Okay.